It's time to hit the road and discover Texas with Annie Studebaker. Get ready to travel deep into the heart of the Lone Star State, meeting friendly folks and exploring fascinating places. Experience a way of life like nowhere else in the world as we uncover the rich history and culture of Texas. Discover adventure, discover excitement, discover Texas with Annie Studebaker.
Today, we're going to visit a farm called Otto Mann Jr. and Sons Incorporated, located in Bigfoot, Texas. This farming operation has been in business for over 70 years. In order to achieve the maximum crop production, they use crop rotation. Let's go see how this works. Bigfoot is a small community located 40 miles south of San Antonio. This is where we find the farm, Otto Mann Jr. and Sons Incorporated. This farming operation has been very productive through 5 generations. We had the pleasure of meeting 3 of them, Otto Mann, James Mann, and Zachary Mann.
We do a little bit of everything. We do peanuts, we do wheat.
So you've been farming long? Have you been
I've been doing it for 14 years now. So when I got out of school, I started farming right away. So
interesting.
Yeah.
And
then my dad was he's a director for Valley Telephone, but he retired, I guess, 5 years ago or 6 years ago. So he's been retired not that long.
So, and James' father, how many generations is this?
Oh, well, I'm considered the 5th generation.
I truly enjoy talking to Zachary and learning about the history of the farm. So we're here to see the wheat harvest, right? So
That's
this is wheat right here behind
That's wheat.
us. Interesting. Is this a dry land?
No, this is mainly all irrigated farm. Now we do our corners in dry land, which is what you'll see here in a minute. Is we're going to be harvesting our dry land corners, but 90% of our stuff that we do is all irrigated.
And I see the wheat here that wraps around the corn. Is that how? Is this all the corners? Or?
That's the corners, yeah, because the irrigated part is a circle, and then the corners are the left out spots.
Oh, that's
And instead of just letting it grow in fallow, we usually always try to farm them. So.
Oh, okay.
So when we start harvesting the irrigated, we'll save so many pounds behind for the following year, and then we take that wheat seed and plant all of our irrigated, and then if we got leftovers, we'll go in there and plant all of our dry land.
The harvesting process was very interesting. It takes planning and dedication to be successful.
It's actually like 7-year-old wheat that we first started off with. You just keep regenerating it. So
Okay.
it's a lot cheaper that way than buying it all the time. I tell you that. So.
But you couldn't do that with sorghum, right?
You could. There's high. Yeah, legally you can. I mean, you can do it with anything you grow. You can do it with peanuts. You can do it with corn, milo. The problem is when you start getting into the high-end grain crops, you need to have seed treatment. You need to have other things, and it's more difficult to do seed treatments. And it's hard to have, like corn is all GMO altered. You have to have, if you start planting, in other words, you need to have that trait fresh every year. On wheat, it's not such a big deal. Oats, wheat, all those, cheap grains, you can plant them in the ground and you're good to go. So.
Okay, great. Tell me what we're about to see here. I know I hear the combine there getting ready. We have a grain part coming.
We're gonna start harvesting our corners. We've already harvested all the irrigated stuff. We're a little bit a day late.
Okay.
But that's all right. We're trying to beat the weather. But we're gonna finish. This is our last 60 acres we got to do, and there's about 15 acres per corner. And there's 8 corners here, so we have about 60 acres here to harvest out. And once we get going, most of this stuff is pretty light. You're probably looking at about anywhere from 5 to 25 bushel wheat. Normally when it's irrigated, you're looking anywhere from 40 to 70 or 80 bushel wheat. So there's a big difference between the corners and the irrigated. And like this year, it's been that way. We just came off of some 40 to 80 bushel wheat, and now we're gonna get to the corners. It's gonna be like a major letdown, but this is all free, so didn't cost any water, didn't cost any fertilizer, so it might not make much, but it's all free money at this point.
Oh, yeah. Tell me something about the bushels. How many pounds to a bushel?
On wheat, it's technically 60 pounds a bushel is what it is. So 60 pounds makes a bushel. And on milo, it's like 56. On corn, it's 56. Wheat's the only one that's a little different. I think wheat is 60 pounds a bushel.
So the bushels change. I didn't
Bushels
know
change,
that.
yeah.
Interesting.
And when you're on
Okay.
peanuts, it's only 30 bushels. So it's a whole lot less. And I think oats is 32. So there's a difference between all the crops on bushel weights.
So all these crops that you have are different. So year round, you've got crops in the ground?
12 months out of the year, there's always something planted on our farm. Because when we get through the peanuts, we're planting wheat. When we're in the middle of wheat, we're planting milo, we're planting cotton, we're planting corn. When we start harvesting that wheat, we take out the wheat and we start putting peanuts behind the wheat. And then we have peanuts all the way to the beginning of December is where we finish up peanuts.
Okay, so you're going to have
Yeah, it's year round.
peanuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not on the corners. We'll put peanuts only on the irrigated.
Oh, it's only
Yeah, only on
irrigated.
irrigated.
Oh, interesting. Okay, okay. So you're going to be driving this combine.
I have a work in it. He actually drives it for me. I'll just set him up. I usually always set him up, and I usually make a few rounds just to see how everything's looking, you know, because it kind of helps me out to know how things are rolling along.
Tell me a little bit about these wheat berries. They check them for moisture. How does that work?
When you sell wheat or actually any crop, it has to be a certain moisture and content in the berry or the seed. You can't put wet grain in a silo, or vice versa with peanuts. You can't put wet peanuts, like moisture-wise, in a warehouse, because what happens, they'll spoil. So there's criteria when you sell it. It's got to be a certain moisture, a certain amount, and that's when you sell it. Wheat, it's technically anywhere from 15 down to about 12 is where you want to be. They start docking you when you're on the high end. That usually, I'd say 12 to 13 to 14 is where you want to be on the wheat when you harvest it. But if it's over that, then you can get docked. And if it's too high, even at that, then they'll reject your load. So you got to get the moisture. And there's sensors in the combine that'll tell you what the moisture is. And also we have a moisture tester at the shop. If you really want to make sure it's right, you know, it's even more accurate than the combine. So.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this combine and how it works. So we have this combine that's going to cut the head of the wheat.
The
right?
combine in the front,
The
header in the front, it's got a sickle bar, and what it does, it cuts all the wheat heads off the top.
And it's
leaves all the straw on the
scissors.
bottom. Yeah, it's like scissors. It just goes like this here, and it just cuts it right off.
Okay.
Once it gets cut, it goes into the auger, then it goes into the feeder house, which is what connects the header to the combine. Once it goes into the combine, it goes into the rotor. And the rotor is surrounded by what they call a concave, and the amount of clearance between the concave and the rotor as it's spinning, that's what shells all the wheat seed out of the husk. And then all the trash and hay go out the back, and then
It has a blower in there.
it's got a big fan in there, and it blows all the loose material, the husk, the stall, throws all out the back, and then all the heavy stuff, which is your grain, falls to the bottom of the machine. And when it falls to the bottom, and it goes into an auger that takes it to the tank. To the hopper. And then from there it goes into the grain buggy, and the grain buggy is optional. You don't have to have that. It makes it quicker on harvesting. From the combine, it goes straight into the truck, and then from the truck it goes to Corpus.
Stop.
You don't stop. Yeah, you don't stop.
We have Milo at home, sorghum, and I did it for 2 summers. Didn't do it again, but I learned that never to stop, and then I dumped the grain in the grain
That's right.
cart.
That's
It was
right.
so interesting, but I don't think I would ever do it again. But anyhow.
Technically, here we might not do it on the go because it's kind of a pain, you know, because we're going in a curved pattern. And
I see. Yeah.
And the thing is, we're going to finish today easy. And the thing is, when we're in the very far end of the place, which is a mile down the road here, you don't want to be way down there and drag the combine all the way back over here just to dump. So we'll have the grain cart so he can dump on the ends. But technically, on this job right here, we're probably not going to do a whole lot of dumping on the go. We'll just, when the combine's full, we'll just dump it out.
Okay.
Then the cart will come over here and dump. So.
Okay, so you go directly from the combine to the truck.
Well, we go directly from the combine to the cart.
Normally, but
normally.
You're going to go ahead and dump it in the cart, or going to go?
We're going to dump in a cart. We're just not going to dump on the go, like
the go
together. Yeah,
moving.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay, good deal. When we return, we'll see the peanut planting process.
Hold on to your hat. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Once the wheat was harvested, they would get it ready for planting peanuts. As you can see, this soil is red. This makes it perfect for growing peanuts. So tell me what we have here.
Well, these are totes of peanuts. We get the peanuts in 2,000-pound totes. And these peanuts have been treated with the herbicide, you can see. So it's a regular peanut that one would have eaten until it was treated. We treat it so that we can avoid any sort of soil fungus that exists or any sort of insects that might be in the soil. It just makes for a healthier peanut and gives it a chance to thrive in the soil once we plant it.
Okay, great. So these are called totes.
These are called totes, 2,000 pounds, and we'll put the totes onto the planter. That way our guys don't have to empty 50-pound bags. They can it just refills the planter itself. So it really kind of has saved on labor this year.
I always thought that, you had to refill up each planter manually. Okay,
we did until this year. So this is
great.
very exciting. Yeah, it's very exciting for us.
Okay, good deal. This field is going to be planted with peanuts, right?
Absolutely.
What did you have here before?
We grew wheat in this field, and then we harvested the wheat, and now we like to follow up wheat fields with peanuts. I feel like when the wheat was here, it really helped to prepare this soil, and lots of water was given to the wheat. So now it's in a good stage to plant peanuts here. We have disked this field twice to turn under any wheat stubble that was here. And now we've gone back and we've made rows so that the planter can come through and plant the peanuts here.
Interesting. How wide are these rows?
These are about 36 inches wide. And we'll plant the peanuts about 2.5 inches deep into each of the rows and about 2 inches apart. So we'll have about 100 pounds of peanuts per acre, and this field is about 120 acres.
Oh, 100 pounds per acre, more or less. That's interesting. Okay. It's very interesting to watch the planting process. The peanuts are planted and each one will produce a plant that has a lot of peanuts on it. Okay, Zachary, what are we looking at here?
This is a seed tender that we use to hold our peanut seed. And this is what we use to fill up our planter when we're planting our peanuts. It just speeds the process up on, instead of doing it all by bags and by hand, this thing here, we fill this up and then it does it all, it eliminates the manual labor of dumping all the sacks in the planter. And when you plant peanuts, you tend to load up a lot, pretty much every round. And with the tender, it makes it a whole lot easier to where you don't have to keep doing it by manual labor all the time. So.
That's interesting. How many planters do you have on that tractor?
That's a 6-row setup on that planter. All the peanut equipment is pretty much 6-row. Probably next year we'll probably go 12-row, but the harvesters, the diggers, most of that stuff is all 6-row. It's pretty standardized. That's why we still stick with 6. And the way we put our herbicide out kind of limits us to being any wider at this moment. But next year, we're going to do some changes again due to labor situation, and we just need to cut back costs because the price of peanuts have gone down quite a bit in the last few years, and we got to figure out a way to cut more costs here and there. So the way you see right here will probably be a thing of the past. We'll probably be doing something differently next year on this, but this is the way we've been doing it for a good 20 years, and it works well.
So for the planter, each one gets filled up?
Each one gets filled up.
In
other words,
yes.
Yeah, okay. The guy will pull up to the back of this thing, and then he'll use that black tube, and it's got a switch on there, and when he gets ready to load up, he just pushes the switch, and it's got a conveyor belt, and it just pours all the seed into the hoppers, into each individual planter unit. And they'll move a good 50 to 60,000 pounds worth of seed. So this way, one guy's not having to pick up 60,000 pounds of seed. He can just, it's all done, through the tractor and automation of the conveyor belt and everything. So just makes it easier.
Once these plants grow, they're flipped over so they can dry a little before harvest day. How do you load it?
We have a tender that we want on our forklift. The totes, which y'all saw at the shop, are like big sacks. They're 2,000 pounds a piece. We use our forklift on our tractor, and we'll pick the tote up all the way to the top of the hopper, and then we'll untie the tote, and then the peanuts will fall out and fill the.
Oh, interesting.
Fill it
okay,
up. Yeah.
Okay. So More or less, give me an idea. How tall is it? I have never seen a peanut plant, so how tall is it?
Peanut plant usually gets about a
little
foot.
bitty.
Yeah, it's about 1.5 feet tall.
Ah.
It depends on how much. It depends on the environment. You know, if it's really sandy and if it's really wet, you know, and varieties make a difference too. Sometimes they'll get, you know, at least maybe, you know, up to your kneecap, but usually they're about this tall. But they vine out. They completely will cover the ground. It'll look like a green carpet on the ground when they're fully mature. So you won't see any ground, you won't see any dirt. Once they lap, which is when that's what
Thick.
they say, thick, yeah.
Oh, how beautiful.
Because it's a vining crop is what it is. What we're doing here today is we're spraying peanuts. We're putting out a fungicide on the peanuts. And what it does, it keeps the diseases down on the bottom of the canopy. What we're spraying for at this moment is, we're spraying fungicide, like I said. The fungicide is for southern blight. At times you get a fungus that grows around the crown of the plant, and since this is a kind of a carpet kind of plant, you have a lot of humidity at the bottom of the ground and it stays wet and you get funguses growing. There's not a major issue here, it's just preventative, because if you don't do it, it will become a major issue.
When we return, we'll go one step further and see what it takes to harvest peanuts and have it ready for distribution.
Hold on to your hat. We'll be right back.
The harvesting process is very interesting. Big equipment, tractors, combines, and hoppers working together to successfully harvest the peanuts in a timely manner.
The green part in front of the planter is a rototiller, and that thing's operated, it's like a big garden tiller. And when that thing goes in the ground, it turns and it mixes the ground, it mixes the herbicide about 3.5 inches deep. And then the planter comes in right behind it. And all the noise you hear are little small rocks. There's a small rock outcropping right here.
Okay, more or less, how many peanuts per plant?
I'd say anywhere from 10 peanuts in a bad year to probably maybe as much as 30 to 40 peanuts per plant.
Wow.
Just, it all depends on variety and it all depends on conditions. And really, when you get down to the nitty gritty, the main thing is water. Depends on how much water's on it and how it gets done. And you know, you always want to strive for the highest yield.
We have made it to the end of the peanut harvest. We are so excited. We've worked all year and been through lots of stresses with the water and spraying and monitoring the crop, and now is the great day where this field is being harvested and the peanuts are leaving the field, so it's very exciting for us. About a week ago we came through this field and we dug up the plant. So it's been sitting out and drying for about a week so the peanuts can get to a lower moisture level. And so then we have 3 combines that are running today that are harvesting the peanuts from the combine, and it goes into a peanut buggy, and then the peanut buggy drops it into the 18-wheeler. The 18-wheeler then leaves the field and heads to the peanut shed in town, who then sells our peanuts. These peanuts here are used for candy, so you'll see them in Snicker bars or other kind of peanut bars that are sold. So we're excited that this is going out to the consumer now. So we've worked so hard and are very excited to get these out of the field today.
Now let's take a look as Rebecca Mann visits a local school and educates students on the history of peanuts, and she even makes peanut butter.
So I'm going to talk today about peanuts. Yes, so I am a peanut farmer. My husband's a peanut farmer. He drives the tractors in the fields and he gets the peanuts out of the field. So I have peanuts in my life and in my house all the time, and so today I'm going to share with you the history of the peanut and how it was discovered. And we're going to talk about some of the uses of the peanut, and we're also going to teach you how to make homemade peanut butter, and maybe we'll even get to try it. So let's talk about the history of the peanut. So back in the 1400s, which was a long, long time ago, there was a king and queen of Spain, and here is Spain over here. So the king and queen of Spain, they were looking for money. And back then they needed money in the form of gold and silver. So they gathered all of their men and they said, we're going to send you out. We want you to go find gold and silver and bring it back to us. So one of these men, his name was Francisco Pizarro, he got on a boat in Spain and he sailed all the way around South America and he landed in Peru. And when he got off the boat, all the natives were there and he said, take me to your leader. I'm here to get gold and silver. I need to trade some things for gold and silver. So the natives took Mr. Pizarro to their leader and he traded some things. He got his gold, he got his silver. And as he was leaving, he saw a bag of something sitting on the ground and he asked the leader, he says, what are these right here? And he says, these are cacahuates, also known as peanuts. Right. He says, so what are they? And he said, well, they're a very delicious treat, a good snack. They come in their own shell. He said they grow well here in Peru because we have lots of sunlight, we have lots of rain, and it's a good crop for us. And he says, this is genius. I'm going to take this back to the King and Queen of Spain. So he gets back on his boat from Peru, sails back to Spain, and he presents the King and Queen with the gold and silver. And then he says, but I also have another treat for you. Look what I have. Gets them out of his pocket. He says, these are peanuts. They come in their own shell. And he says, I think they'll grow well here because we too have lots of sunshine and lots of rain. And so they begin to grow peanuts and they grew very well in that area. And so then they begin to think that peanuts might grow in other parts of the world. There was a man that was going to help them discover a way to get out of poverty because after the Civil War, there was some poverty in the southern states of the United States. And his name was Mr. Carver, and he was a scientist and inventor, and he says, you know, we grow peanuts really well, but I bet I could come up with lots of uses for peanuts and hopefully get some of these people out of poverty. And so he discovered through in his learnings and discoveries, he discovered that lots of things could be made out of peanuts and out of peanut shells. So then we began to see peanuts grow in all sorts of the areas of the United States. They came down into Frio County because we too also have lots of sunlight and lots of rain. Well, technically not much rain, but what we do have are irrigation systems where we can water the land ourselves and grow peanuts. So we found that they grow well here as well. What type of things do we find peanuts in?
Peanut brittle.
Peanut brittle. And what did you say? Peanut butter has peanuts in it. Have you ever heard of peanut oil?
Yep, no.
If anybody had a fried turkey at Thanksgiving, it was probably fried in some peanut oil. That's used from the peanut as well. So remember I talked about the fact that they need lots of water? These shells are super, super absorbent. And so Mr. Carver found out that if he smashed up the shells, he could, create some things that also needed to be absorbent. Paper towels. So the peanut shells are ground up and used to make paper towels. Absorbs all the water. What else absorbs liquid? Try again. Cat litter. Cat litter. It's very absorbent. So peanut shells are ground up and put into cat litter. Now my favorite use for the peanut, Snicker bar. So just so you know, all of the peanuts grown here in Frio County are used for candy bars. So next time you go to the store and you pick up a Snicker bar, most likely those peanuts that in your Snicker bar came from right here in your backyard. Isn't that exciting? So what we're going to talk about now is how to make homemade peanut butter. So we've all tried this kind right from the store. Has anybody made homemade peanut butter before? Maybe. So let's talk about it. I made some before you guys got here, but I'm going to show you how I did it. It's real easy. These are just plain roasted peanuts. Roasted, so it's basically a peanut from the ground that's been put into the oven to dry out, kind of crunchy. So we're going to put some roasted peanuts into our little chopper, and then we're going to add some of the peanut oil to the peanut butter. And then you grind it up, and the more you grind, the smoother it becomes. But I'm going to leave it kind of chunky so y'all can see what that tastes like if you want some. Now this doesn't have any sugar in it, so it's not going to taste like what you're used to tasting from the store. So there's no other ingredients except for the peanuts and the oil. So it's a little different flavor. Bread? Oh, butter. Peanut butter. Here's fiber. Protein. What's this word?
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
This is what our family's been doing since the 1930s. So we've been in business a long time. It's the 5th generation. 4 generations are still with us. And this is what it comes down to as far as family farms. And so the whole thing is about community development and how you stick to the farm.
Without
That's what
you,
it's all
this
about.
wouldn't be here.
No, it wouldn't.
That's right.
We thank you for watching and hope that you have enjoyed this educational program. Until next time.